Hey everyone, welcome back to KBS Necrocraft Python tutorial day 11. Today in this tutorial, we are going to understand test-driven development using a real-time scenario step by step. I have divided this tutorial in three sections. In first section, where we are going to understand and explore what is TDD, and the second section where we are going to understand how to use TDD by considering a real-time scenario, and the third and final section where we are going to understand what is advantage and disadvantage of TDD. But before we dive into today's video, I would recommend you to go through the unit test part 1 and part 2 tutorial in which I have covered the fundamentals of unit testing. I have added the link in the description box. And also, I just wanted to take a moment to invite you to join my channel KBS Technocraft. If you like what you see, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Now, let's understand test-driven development or TDD in Python. TDD or test-driven development is a software development approach where tests are written before any code is implemented. The idea is to write tests that cover all possible use cases for a particular feature or functionality and then implement the code to satisfy those tests. TDD is an iterative and incremental process where the code is continuously refactored to improve its design and maintainability. In this tutorial, we are going to explore TDD in depth and demonstrate how to use TDD to write better software. We'll be using Python and unit test framework to demonstrate the TDD process. The TDD process basically consider of having three steps. First one is write a failing test case. Why we say write the failing test cases? Because we started writing the test case before the actual functionality or class or function being implemented. In that case, if we write a test case by having some expected value, in that case what will happen, the expectation from the functions or method or feature which is expected, it will not be met because the actual implementation is not being implemented. In that case the test case will fail. So we will write with our expectation what is expected value when you pass a particular input to a particular function or particular class or particular feature. So we will write our test case based on our test case objective and expected value. Then we will run that particular test case and see that whether this test case is getting pass or fail. If it's failed, then we will go and write the code or refactor the code to make this test case pass. And this process will keep iterating every time when run the test case and test case is getting failed. We will be keep iterating this process till the test case is not getting passed. So if you see this diagram, we have start and then we are adding a test case and then we run the test case, and if you see the test case is getting failed, then we will do the refactoring or making the changes to the code and again execute. If the test case fails, again we will do the code changes and run that. So this process will keep repeating every time when we follow this TDD. Now, before we move to the actual code, what we have to do, we have to do the environment setup. To do the environment setup, the steps are defined or mentioned into the previous tutorial, that is the unit testing in Python part 1 and part 2. If you have not yet done, please refer those. I will also link the environment setup link into description. You can refer it. So here I'm just going to create a very simple folder. That folder is called TDD tutorial. So what I have done it here, I have used the command prompt. You can create a folder manually. I have created a folder TDD tutorial using command prompt make dir, and then I make a TDD tutorials. And then what I did, I opened the Visual Studio Code from this location. Once I open the Visual Studio Code, what I can see that here I need to select the environment. To reach on this particular location, you have to press Shift Control and P, so you will be able to see this particular window is open where you are having an option to select that environment. So I have just selected create Python environment, and when I create Python environment is selected, then it will ask me to select the virtual environment. So I and Conda, I just selected virtual environment and then click OK. Once I click OK, then it's asked me to select the Python version. Since I have multiple version installed on my system, I selected the first one. If you have not installed multiple version, by default one will come. You can click on next or select it. That's fine. And then if you see down, you will be able to see that that environment is getting created. Once the environment is created, you will be able to see this .venv folder is created and it contains this much files. So if you see include library script and everything is there. So okay, so before we jump into the code, we will see what we are going to write it and what scenario we are going to take for considering this TDD. So I'm going to create a text file basically, and in this text file I'm just covering or mentioning the scenario, and I just given a scenario.txt file name. And this what I have, we are going to use a particular scenario where a discount being offered based on the amount of the purchase made for a particular customer. So for example, if a customer purchase some item from a particular shop, in that case, if the amount is between 0 to 5,000, the discount is 5%. If amount is 5,000 to 15,000, then 12%. If the amount is 15 to 25,000, then discount is 20%. And then above 25%, any amount, whatever the customer has made the purchase, then the discount is 30%. So let me type that particular example here. So this is the example which we are going to cover it. So we are going to cover this. We have a we have to write a simple calculate discount method where a feature or functionality where the discount is depend on the amount, that means purchase amount. So if amount is 0 to 5,000, then 5%, 5,000 to 15,000 is a 12%, 15,000 to 25,000 is 20%, and above 25,000 is a 30%. So now this is where we are going to write it. Now what we are going to do, that as we have mentioned that the test driven development is start from writing the test cases. So we will create two file here, and then I will create two file here. One, I will create calculate discount but py, and I'm going to define a function calculate discount. I'm just writing function just to make sure that a file name and function name are different. So I just given this function name, and then I return pass. So if you have learned that what is the value, why we are using pass is if you are writing a function where you do not want to declare the function body. In that case, if you return pass, it's just return it. It will not have any logic written here. So in that way you will avoid to write the function definition. So since this is TDD approach, we are writing a function but it does not have any code, and that's how the TDD start. So you have a function which we are going to test it but without a definition. So this is where we have defined our function. Now we are going to create a test class. So I'm going to create a test class, let's say test, and then I will write that function name, whatever. So I'm giving this name. Let me rename it test underscore function. So I have written a simple functions or simple test class where we are going to test this. So I'm going to import unit test, and then I'm going to give the same name of the class. So you can give any name, so I'm just giving same name class. So I'm just trying to create a class. and then here a class name, and then I'm going to inherit from unit test class is I don't need to pass any parameter here. Now we are going to write a test case to test that. So let me write this function, calculate discount function. I'm going to write for first 1000, and then so I'm going to define a test case 1000. 1000 I write uh, just to make sure that we are testing for 1000. Okay, and then we are passing self, uh, yeah, and then we are going to write a self, and then assert equal. Okay, now since we have written this function in the different class, we have to import that class. So I have written import, and then I'll calculate discount here. Then I will use calculate discount dot as function name. The function name is whatever the function name is there, and I will pass amount thousand. And if we go to our scenario, if 0 to 1000 is a 5%, so in that case 5% of this will become 50 rupees. So here we will write 50. So 50.0. So what we have done, we have written a test case where we are trying to test this functionality for 1000 rupees. When we pass 1000 rupees, we are trying to make sure that this 1000 rupees, when I pass it, the discount is calculated value should be 50. And if you see that function is not yet defined, so when I run this test case, what will happen, this particular function will test case will get failed. So let's run it by adding the main here, and then we will run this test cases, and we'll see that what is the result. Definitely the test case will get failed, and then we will try to fix that. Okay, so let me try it. So I have written this function, and then I'm going to run this. Okay, so if you see error once, so failed. So this particular functions is getting failed. Okay, now let's write this for all other scenarios. Since we want to test it all other scenarios, so we are going to write method for 1000, and then 5000. I'm going to change this value. I'm just copying pasting here for the first method, and then 5000. Since 1 to 5000 is a 5%, so it will be 250. And if you see here, then 5000 to 15,000 is a 12%. So we will go and we'll put 10,000 now. 12% of 10,000 will be 1200, and 15,000 is 1800, and then let's say 25,000. Since it is a 30%, so it will come 7,500 approximately. So these are the test cases which we have written. When we run it, we will see all the test cases will get failed. Let me save this. So we are able to see all test cases are getting failed. Let me do some modification on the here. I will just return 0, 0. Or it you are return 0, and that's fine. I will save this and I will come here and run this. Since the function name I have not changed, function name will change it 5,000, then 10,000, and then 15,000, and then 25,000. 25,000. So our tests are ready. When I run it, all these 5 test cases are failing because none of the mass criteria are accepted. Actual value and expected values are not matching. Okay, so now we have test cases ready. Our functionality, that means function calculate discount, is not yet implemented. That's why our test case is getting failed. Now the process is for TDD is to write a definition for this particular function. So what we will do, we will write a function which will the function definition now. So we will do step by step. Now we will add a code to calculate the discount. So now, if you see, I have written a function which basically calculate the discount. Okay. So as per this scenario, 0 to 5%, 5,000 to 15,000, 12%, 15,000 to 25%, 25,000, 20%, and above that is 25, and above is 30%. So in that way, we have implemented our logic. This amount is less or equal to 5,000, then amount into this is 5%, 12%, and then again we are having 20%, and then we are having 30%, and these are just for displaying. So we can comment this line of code that is not required. So let's save this and go to our test scenario. Now we will run our test case. So there is one test case which is getting failed because this the calculation, the method which is failing for is 25,000, and the calculated value is coming 50,000, 5,000, and I have mentioned 50,000. So let me make it 5,000 because this is 20% something. So I will save this and run this code. So I can see all my test cases are getting failed. Let's say consider if in my function there is just some issue. Let's say consider if I change this to 1.5, or the developer who developed, he created some issue in this code or logic is not correct. In that case, when we run my test cases, if my test case is written in the right way and my expected value are defined and assert are defined properly, then in that case my test case will get failed. So if you see, wherever I change it, the test case is getting failed because the calculated values are not defined proper. So that's how it works. So now if I save it and again I run it, my test cases are getting passed. So when you don't see anything, your test cases will get passed here. And we can use this test runner as well. So you can use it. You will be able to see the test case as well here. I'm just trying to show you how you can use that text explorer to see the test cases. So here you will be able to see all your test cases are displayed and you can run from here as well. So for example, if I want to run it all, I can run it. If I want to run it all, I can run it. If you see all the test cases, and if I do any change in any of the test cases, like example, you will be able to see your failed test cases here. So for example, if I change this to 51 to 50 to make sure that test cases are getting failed and save it, you will be able to see when I run this all test cases, you will be able to see that one test case is getting failed, and you will be able to see that which test case is getting failed. Since I changed this, expected value is getting failed. Okay, so that's how you can use it, this text explorer. Now let's understand what is advantage of test-driven development. There are multiple advantages of test-driven development. Few of them I'm going to explain it. What are the advantages? So faster feedback. For example, if you have having a proper coverage of the test cases, then you will get the faster feedback. That means any issue you will be able to catch it uh, in advance. Increase the code quality because you are writing your test cases step by step, and also you are writing your test cases in advance, your code quality will improve. Easier refactoring, and since you are writing a code to make it testable, which make your code more refactorable, because when you are writing a code and you are able to test your code, that means your code's dependencies are injected proper. In that case, it will be easier to refactor it. And then more efficient development. Why we say more efficient development? Because when you do this TDD, when you follow this TDD, what is happening, you are testing your code in each step of the development or each phase of your development. For example, when you are not having any functionality being implemented in the actual code, you have written the test cases, and then you run the test case, all test cases getting passed failed, and then you added functionality in iterative mode into your actual function, and then you keep testing that, so you will be able to find out your defective advance. Okay, so that's how your code is, or your development process is more efficiently works. Okay, so that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribe to my channel. It will help me to create more content like that. So if you have not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and join my channel.